And welcome back to the Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono, and I'm here to bring you the Week 12 Waiver Wire breakdown. Let's get into it. All right, so here to talk about the Week 12 Waiver Wire breakdown. So I got a couple names I'm going to put out here for some waivers, and as always, we're going to end the entire waiver wire episode with some QB streamers. So let's talk about three players here that should be owned in your leagues and are over 40% owned in sleeper leagues currently. That's Zach Charbonnet. With Kenneth Walker going down with an oblique injury, there's a chance he may get the lion's share this coming Thanksgiving. Uh, the thing is, the oblique injury happened to CMC and he didn't miss a week. It also happened to Jalen Waddle in the offseason. He missed the entire preseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how he comes out of it. I just think on the short week, they're probably going to err on the side of caution and give either the lion's share to Zach Charbonnet or the entire thing to him just because of this injury to him. So he's only 51% owned. The other one is Jalen Reed. We've had him in our waiver wire episodes multiple times now. So heed our warnings when we say pick this guy up. The beauty of his play, yeah, he's 43% owned, and what he was able to do on the field this past week was awesome. So it just wasn't in the passing game that he was effective. The fact that Aaron Jones went down with a knee injury and Emmanuel Wilson went down with a shoulder injury, it was A.J. Dillon and Jalen Reed. And they started running the ball with him, and he had the rushing touchdown, which was huge. So the beauty of him is going to be in this dual role in ways that I think is going to be hard to find in most receivers these times, unless your name is well. Actually, they don't really do it with Tyreek Hill anymore. They more do it with Jalen Waddle over in Miami. But look to get him. He's 43% owned, and the other one is Odell Beckham Jr. He's 40% owned, and let me just throw these stats out for you to give you a little bit of taste of what he can do for your fantasy team moving forward, especially without Mark Andrews. In the past 3 weeks, he's had 16 targets, 10 receptions for 212 yards and a touchdown. So he's doing what he used to do for the Giants in a small sample size, but it just goes to show his routes run turn into fantasy value. The more routes they are giving him, the better opportunities he's going to have. I expect the routes to continue to grow. I know he's got that shoulder injury, something to keep an eye out for, but he should be rostered in your league. So let's go over some waiver wire options here. Let's start off with a running back. He was on our list in previous episodes due to injuries. He's back on our list from due to injuries as well, and that's Roschon Johnson. He's 32% owned. This past week, he had 6 carries for 30 yards in a game that was a nail biter against Detroit. Deontay Foreman went down in the game. It wasn't quite early; it was kind of middle of the game. He went down. Khalil Herbert also commanded a ton of carries in here. I expect Khalil Herbert to command the initial carries in most of these games, and maybe Roschon Johnson gets these third down and passing down roles, which he had, although he did not have any receptions this past game. He was doing that before with just Khalil Herbert before they activated Deontay Foreman. So to me, I think he's going to fall back into that role. They're going to get into that rhythm again. But if Khalil Herbert doesn't come back looking like he did earlier this season, it could be Roschon Johnson's season. It could be the time that he gives you a good push to the fantasy playoffs. So go grab him in your leagues. Let's take a look at some wide receivers here. So we've got a plethora because that's really the rotating carousel of waiver wires. Always going to be at wide receiver. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals, Rondell Moore and Greg Dortch. These two guys showed up big time for the Arizona Cardinals this past week, even though they had a loss. Everybody expected Hollywood Brown to be the lion's share of the receptions for this and targets for this offense, and that wasn't necessarily the case. And the fact that Rondell Moore had a couple carries and he's getting a lot of passes out the backfield. He had only a one pass to him this past week. It was 1 for 48 yards and a touchdown on a bomb. Showed great connection with Kyler Murray. And Greg Dortch got the majority of the targets this game, and he was 6 for 8 for 76 yards. So it shows that Murray's going to pass the ball around. It shows that Hollywood Brown is not the only guy to own there, and that yes, James Conner was fantastic before his knee injury, and maybe it takes a couple more weeks and that bye week for it routine for him to get back on the horse again. But they're going to pass this ball and they're going to pass often. And Kyler Murray can scramble as much as he wants, and it's going to work. That knee is not hindering him at all. So go grab Rondell Moore or Greg Dortch. They're good holding pieces, especially for flex opportunities in the playoffs when their schedule is juicy. We'll talk about Khalil Shakir again. He's been on our list before too. He's 21% owned. He was 3 for 4 for 115 and a touchdown this past week. Big numbers. And we said it before, we'll say it again. When Dawson Knox was going out of the lineup, which he still currently is, we knew Dalton Kincaid was going to come into that tight end lineup, but there was no longer going to be these dual tight end sets that they were running. It was going to be 3 wide receiver sets. And Khalil Shakir was the benefactor of the 3 wide receiver set bump. And it's shown in his games. He's had the first game without Dawson Knox. I think he went 6 for 6, had a huge game. I expect them to continue to go. Now, the one caveat is when Buffalo is not playing well, none of these receivers are doing well. And the team's not doing well. So Josh Allen needs to be playing well and finding other guys. It stinks for Diggs owners right now because Shakir had the big game, but you got to expect that against the Jets. This upcoming game for Tyreek and Waddle. I'm a Waddle owner. I'm expecting a big game. I'm expecting Tyreek Hill to get taken out of the game, and then it's Waddle. But it could easily be anybody else on that team, just because the sheer fact is that defense takes away the big playmakers at the receiving game. And Shakir was a benefactor of that. Dontavian Wicks, to me, he's 1% owned. Christus was a big one that he put in here and wanted to say he was 3 for 5 for 91 yards this past week. He's actually had a pretty good amount of targets, at least 4 targets in the past 3 weeks. And this offense is starting to roll a little bit more. And I think they're going to have to go back to the air game with Aaron Jones out again. Now, hopefully they don't go to the air game where it is Christian Watson time, because we saw when they went to try and feed Christian Watson, their output went down. You saw bad games from Romeo Dobbs. Well, not really bad games. The guy's had a touchdown in 4 of the last 5 games, but low output for him, low output for Reed, and really nobody else in the passing game. And yeah, touchdown to Christian Watson this past week, but besides that, he really didn't do too much. Another wide receiver who was on our list in the previous one, it was Tutu Atwell. Now that was injury related because he was playing really well without Cooper Kupp. Well, Cooper Kupp has a low-grade ankle sprain, and it's going to be day to day. But that being said, do you think they're going to be cautious? They possibly could be. Who knows? But if there's a chance, you want to take it right now, because Tutu Atwell had 9 targets in every single game in the first 5 weeks for the LA Rams. And if that's going to be the case again without Cooper Kupp, I'd rather take a shot on that. And you could always drop him and pick somebody else up here, because to me, Tutu Atwell at 9 targets a game is huge volume based, and that's where you're going to want in your flex play. What I want to talk about is a tight end here, Isaiah Likely. So Likely is most likely to be the filler for Mark Andrews. Now, Mark Andrews has a cracked, broken fibula. It's going to take some time to heal. They are being a little bit cryptic with what they're thinking. Is it going to be season ending? Is it not going to be? Is he going to try and make it back to playoffs after week 18 if possible? I know that guy is tough as nails, and if he's going to have to try and come back, he's going to come back, but it's not going to be till playoff time. So you really don't have him for fantasy anymore. You don't have him for fantasy playoffs unless you guys ride it in past week 18. In crazy leagues, I've seen do that before. But Isaiah Likely, he's 6% owned. The real thing you're trying to buy into here is the average of like 7 targets a game that Andrews was getting. Andrews had some low and some highs up above at 10 or above, but you're looking for that 7 targets a game average. And to me, if you can get that from Likely, it's a huge pickup. You might as well take the chance on it. But we've also seen without Andrews at the beginning of the season, he didn't look so great. Even when Andrews left the game, because it was only on the second catch that he had on that first drive, Likely didn't seem to be on the same page as well with Lamar Jackson. And I also think that he himself didn't look like he did those past couple games of last year, that he had that 100 and something yard game against Tampa Bay. He's an athlete. He's great. But is he going to be what you need? Or are you going to go to the waiver wire and try and get some other lower owned tight ends in your league? Donald Parham looks like to have a piece of that offense, and we know he gets targets in the red zone and end zone. You know, David Njoku has worked himself back up to a top 15, 14 tight end in the league right now. And actually, in the past couple weeks, he's been in the top 10 to top 12 in weekly. So there's other options out there, but for low cost, you probably don't have to spend a dime of your fab on Isaiah Likely. If you are the Mark Andrews owner, because nobody's jumping on him, why not take a shot on that guy and then also go get somebody like Pat Fryermuth, who just came off the IR and had a bum game. The guy's going to come back and he's going to be just fine. So as I said, those are our big waiver wire options. You got Rondell Moore, Greg Dortch. You got Khalil Shakir. You got Tutu Atwell, Roshan Johnson. You've got Wicks out of Green Bay, and Isaiah Likely. Now, to me, there are a couple QB streamers I want to hit, but before we jump into that, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification button, and ring the bell so that you can see our upcoming episodes. This coming Thursday, we have a special episode because it is Thanksgiving, and we have a Black Friday football game here. So not only are you going to get one game, you're not going to get two games, you're not going to get three, you're going to get four games previewed prior to the Thursday and Friday games. So be sure to hit that notification so you get the update when we drop that episode on Thursday morning. We also have our weekend episodes that we drop every single week that go over the full weekend slate, the Sunday night, and the Monday night primetime games. So let's go into these QB streamers. I'm going to give you three options here. Now, the first option is going to be a true streamer. The other two options are going to be some long-term plays on top of streamers. First one being Gardner Minshew. He is a great Week 12 streamer. He's playing Tampa Bay Buccaneers, top three worst against quarterbacks in fantasy football. You can be sure to put him out there because they're going to try and stop Jonathan Taylor in the run game, and he's going to have to air it out. Love this Week 12 play. I also like him in Week 13 against Tennessee, so he's a good 2-week hold for people like who have Justin Fields, maybe, who have some of these quarterbacks that are on bye Week 13. Now, if you are okay at your quarterback position, you weren't a Joe Burrow owner, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you were a Joe Burrow owner and you need something to push yourself not only to the playoffs, but during the fantasy playoffs, well, Derek Carr and Jordan Love are the two options I'm going to give you here. Now, Derek Carr is in concussion protocol, so if you have somebody to play Week 12, great. But moving forward, he has got a great schedule. And Jordan Love is somebody, too, that's starting to heat back up again and play like he did at the beginning of the season. So Derek Carr, next three games are against Atlanta, Detroit, and Carolina. And for the fantasy playoffs, he's playing the Giants, the LA Rams, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What a schedule. What a layup there for the passing game. And Jordan Love has an equally impressive schedule because the next three games are against Detroit, Kansas City, and the Giants. Now, Kansas City in Week 13 is a tough one, but Detroit and the New York Giants sandwiching that, you can find a filler for that. Like I said, play Week 13 Gardner Minshew. You pick the two of them up, you'll be happy because then in the playoffs, he's got Tampa Bay, Carolina, Minnesota. Three teams that can give up points to the quarterback in the air. So those are our three there. Minshew, the streamer, more long-term streamers, and playoff primers are Derek Carr and Jordan Love. That's our waiver wire episode for Week 12. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.